Your mind has not been quiet in years. What if the thinking that keeps you up at night, the message you reread 3 times before sending, was never a flaw in you, but the smartest thing a small version of you ever figured out how to do? There is a sentence that fits this exact feeling, and it goes like this: your brain won't shut off. Not at midnight, not in the shower, not in the middle of a conversation you should be enjoying. It runs the same loop while you brush your teeth, while you drive, while someone you love is talking and you are nodding in the right places, and somewhere underneath all of it, a quieter version of you is still checking the room. You replay a text from 3 days ago. You rehearse a sentence you might need to say tomorrow. You catch a small shift in someone's tone, and your whole inside goes quiet for a second, scanning. And here's the thing: none of that started with you. The watching had to start somewhere. Once a brain learns to stay on, it forgets there was ever an off. Here is what that looks like years later, in a life that should feel safe. You read a one-word reply and spend the next hour deciding what it means. Someone says, "We need to talk," and your stomach drops before they finish. You walk into a room, and in 3 seconds, you have mapped every mood without ever meaning to. Before a small thing, a call, a text, your mind runs every version of how it might go wrong. And here is what most people miss. Every one of these is the same thing wearing different clothes. A friend takes longer to reply, and a small voice asks what you did wrong. You replay this morning's conversation, hunting for the moment something shifted. You lie down, and your mind drags up every awkward thing you've ever said. You're not lazy. You're not weak. Your nervous system never got the message that the danger ended. Researchers who study repetitive thinking call this looping one of the strongest predictors of long-term emotional exhaustion. Not because anyone is broken, but because the mind learned very young to stay on watch. But the part coming next is what changes that completely. Here's the part nobody names out loud. The thinking is not the problem. The thinking is the solution to a problem your body solved a long time ago when you were too small to know it was solving anything. A child who grew up in a house where moods could change without warning learned very early to read the air, to watch the door, to listen for the tone before the words. You knew which version was walking in before they spoke. That child was not anxious. That child was paying attention because paying attention was the only thing that worked. The mind that learned this got very good at it, good enough to keep going long after the room was safe, long after the people you grew up with were no longer there. Call it the watchtower mind, a lookout built when you were 6 and never told it could come down. You did not develop overthinking. You developed a survival skill, still running in rooms that no longer need it. But here's where it gets quieter. A scientist named Stephen Porges spent decades studying why some bodies stay alert long after the danger has passed. He named what your nervous system has been doing under the surface every minute without your permission. He called it neuroception. The body's quiet, automatic scanning for safety, running underneath thought, faster than thought, deciding whether you can rest before you even notice. Which means the question was never why this won't stop. The question was always something gentler. What is your body still trying to protect you from? But the answer to that one is where everything softens. So before you call yourself broken again, look at what your mind actually did. A small version of you walked into a room that was not always safe, and instead of falling apart, that small person built something, a quiet, fast, invisible system that read every face and tracked every shift and kept you ahead of whatever might be coming. That careful watching is the reason you made it here. The problem was never that it worked. The problem is that nobody ever told it the war was over. If any of this has been sitting heavy lately, talking to someone who knows how to listen can make more difference than you might expect. You are not too much. You are not too sensitive. You are someone who learned, very early, that staying alert was the price of staying okay, and you have been paying that price quietly, for years, in a life that no longer requires it. That is not a flaw. That is a child who survived. But maybe the looping was never the enemy. Maybe it was the part of you that learned, in a room you did not choose, that paying attention was the only way to feel safe. And maybe the work now is to walk that part of you to the window and show it the street is empty, that nobody is coming, that the moods are not in this room anymore. Some nights the watching will still come back. Something that worked that well takes longer to learn. It can rest. You spent a long time being the one who noticed everything for everyone before they noticed it themselves. You were 6 years old and you were already on duty. Here is the question. Sit with it as long as you need. What would it feel like, just for one quiet hour, to not be the one watching the room?